I was just trying to make it in life and make my mother proud. Like, that was always my thing, like, growing up. My mom's was always a single parent, and raising 2 kids, like, I know that's hard. So, like, I had to, like, one of us had to, like, be the man of the house and help my mother out. Police rang the bell, knocked on the door. I thought they was here for, like, a warrant I had for my arrest for hopping a train and throwing it in a different name. I was like, do you know why I'm here? You here for shooting 2 people. What? What you talking about? I ain't shooting no 2 people. And from there, I haven't seen home for 19 months.
For nearly 2 years, Jelani Henry sat in one of America's worst prisons, awaiting a trial that never came.
The prosecutor was just, like, trying to make me gang affiliated, as in, like, I'm in a picture with a few friends or so I grew up with, or I got their phone number in my phone, hanging out with them in the posting up pictures. To the DA, it was just like, I'm part of them and I'm part of the nonsense, or I'm a monster. That's the way she tried to, like, look at me, as just sitting in the cell, just thinking. And sometimes I was thinking, like, yo, 25 to life, man, that's a long time.
Between 2007 and 2010, the number of youth crews in Harlem exploded. The Henry Boys became members of the Goodfellas, a crew based around their home on 129th Street and Lenox.
We used to all be hanging out in the park. It was so many of us at one point to say, oh, what's going on? There's too many of us to say hi to. Oh, hi, such and such, hi, such and such, hi, ASHEEM, hi, this, hi, that. So what's good, fellas? And that's how we came up with the name.
To me, Goodfellas just meant, like, my family. Like, I knew these people. It's not like I just seen them in the street and was just like, oh, let's just become the Goodfellas. It was just, I knew them all my life, and we always had each other back. Like, somebody mess with you, they'll mess with all.
It's not like where, oh, it's a gang where you gotta jump this guy in and you do this and you do this. No, I'm talking about sleepovers, basketball tournaments. We just decided to run around with a name because we was going to parties. And it was like, oh, those are the guys from 29th Street. Oh, those are the Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. It's Jeff's turn. Yeah. A million hair, I'm a good fella, millionaire.
Here in East Harlem, we call them crews because they're not the Bloods and the Crips, like, you know, the way that you see them on TV with a hierarchy and leadership and a history. You know, there are all sorts of examples of groups of young people sticking together, having a code, defending their turf, going on adventures. I mean, in many ways, it's kind of part of what it means to grow up.
But what began as simply a group of childhood friends matured into something much more dangerous.
You know, you don't have teenage boys. You're kind of clueless of what that population is going through. So I would hear whispers because I'm a nosy mom. I'm the kind of mom that used to listen at doors and look at phones and, you know, to see what's going on. And I realized that they were having an issue with some of the other kids in the neighborhood.
Just like, say if I was, like, it's been plenty of times I've been walking around in the neighborhood and dudes know I'm from a certain block. They'll mess with me, jump me or whatever.
We young men, we gonna fight. That's a part of growing up. So, like, everybody gonna get a little scuffle here and there. And after that, it started to progress. More fights, rumbles. And then it started, weapons getting involved in. Punch here, a little scratch here, bad bottles is thrown, you know? And then other dudes started to bring in weapons, like firearms. I was running around with a gun not because I was a gangbanger, I was a gangster. No. I was running, dudes was getting robbed for their coats, and if you get caught out of pocket, something happened to you.
As the Henry Boys entered their teenage years, crews became an unavoidable part of daily life. Jelani was able to remain at a remove, but ASHEEM was pulled deeply into the violence.
What we did was wrong, but don't make it seem like they know what's going on, you know? You had a weapon. You don't know why. Oh, he fired this weapon because of this. He did that. Oh, again, is it right to take somebody else's life? No, but is it right for him to take mine? I'm not gonna let them take me away from my friends. I don't want them to take my friends away from me. I know some of the guys from these other cases. It's not bad people. They not. But people go through their own little situation and their own problems. Just because you do a crime don't necessarily make you a criminal.
A developing story, a massive crackdown today on Manhattan street gangs leads to dozens of arrests. Prosecutors say the member used social media and terrorized East Harlem in a campaign of violence.
These gang members have trafficked weapons, terrorized the developments in East Harlem and the residents of that community.
The premise behind the Crime Strategies Unit is something called intelligence-driven prosecution. So what we do is we go to where the violence is. We started to develop intelligence about who was responsible for the violence and who committed the crimes. And we were finding that they were crews, that those were the people who were largely responsible for violence. It does not surprise me that people talk about criminal activity via social media. You look back, 30, 40 years ago to the mafia, they would talk on the phone, or they would talk at a dinner table, and law enforcement would listen in on those conversations. That's how they communicated. People today communicate via social media and cell phones and texts and, whatever it is, whatever their particular medium is.
Young people in Harlem are under tremendous surveillance in a way that teenagers in other neighborhoods, in more affluent neighborhoods, are not.
Why do young people use social media? Hood fame. It's all about hood fame, and in some cases even exposing people, but it's all about hood fame. The people are following them because of the smack that they throw up on their newsfeed. In that, you have the mentality, okay, we know who the bad boys are, the bad girls are, but then you also have the wannabes that are around them.
You will sometimes see a crew that has a large number of individuals, and within that crew, you'll have a core group who are responsible for the violence. And then there might be some people who don't do that, but who like to be a part of the group, or who feel they have to say they're part of a group because if they don't say they're part of it, they'll get beaten up. Those individuals might be part of the crew, but they wouldn't be swept up in the criminal justice process.
The 129th Street indictment, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 19 to 20 people that got arrested for shootings, pictures, and like the nonsense that be going around the community. Whatever they was doing, I wasn't like really part of it.
In November of 2011, Jelani's older brother ASHEEM was arrested as part of a conspiracy indictment against members of the Goodfellas. Jelani wasn't swept up in that bust, but just 4 months later, the police came for him as well.
The warrant that they issued for my son was that he fit a description of tall, light-skinned, black male, and the perpetrator, they said, ran towards 129th Street. And in the paperwork, it actually said, well, his brother was just arrested on conspiracy charges. Even if his older brother was the worst person in the world, Jelani's guilty by association.
They charged him with 2 counts of attempted murder. Later on, the case was thrown out because they come to find out that it wasn't him who did it. But this goes to show, like, you labeling people that got nothing to do with nothing. You live in the area. You live in this building. Of course, because you play sports with these guys, you're gonna have their number. It's not like I just met you last year. I got pictures with you in frames in my house. We've been friends for years. We all entwined. But as far as gang banging, come on. My brother never did nothing to nobody in his life.
It definitely did not go to trial. It just got prolonged. The judge said that the DA didn't have a case, so the judge just granted me bail and was like, this case is just gonna get thrown out. I was in there for 18 months with no bail, finally got bail on the 19th month, and she was just probably just trying to see how long I would just like sit up and see if I would take a plea. But I showed her.
After almost 2 years of stalling, the district attorney filed the papers to have Jelani's case dismissed. There was no explanation and no apology. He returned to Harlem and is trying to piece his life back together, but he's haunted by his time on Rikers.
I think it's important for people to understand what happens to these young people while they're incarcerated. And my son told me, Mommy, I have to get used to wearing shoes again. That broke my heart. My son is pacing back and forth because he feels he's been caged in for so long. And the only thing you have on him, because he's from a certain area, my kids had curfews, my kids had jobs, you know, my kids graduated high school, my kids, you know, I thought I was doing everything. I worked 2 jobs so they can be okay. And still.
Like, I'm just trying to just do right and get back on my feet. Like, the young people will never get it until like they put their feet in my shoes. But I wasn't part of the nonsense, but I got affiliated with it.